Hey, it's Chuck Armstrong with Loudwire Nights, and this is Loudwire Nights On Demand. We had the chance to chat with Lzzy Hale of Halestorm. She gave us an update on what it's going to be like fronting Skid Row. She also gave us a little bit of a hint on what we can expect from new music from Halestorm. This first aired on Monday, April 8th. Enjoy. I am so happy to welcome a good friend of Loudwire to the show tonight, and probably just one of the most respected and beloved singers in rock today, Lzzy Hale. Lzzy, thank you so much for hanging.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you so much for that intro. That makes my heart happy.
So listen, when this interview got put on the calendar, there are a few things we're going to talk about, and we'll get to these things, right? You're going to tour with I Prevail, and I want to hear what the future looks like for Halestorm. Is there new music coming, all of that. But some major news also dropped, like right after we booked this interview. So the fact that you're going to be playing a few shows with Skid Row coming up, I feel like we got to jump into that.
Oh, absolutely, man! It is so much. It's so beautiful that this week after they announced it, I just realized how much bigger it is than just my individual love for Skid Row and their and our friendship for each other. Because it started out so humbly. We were at a birthday party a couple months ago before we left for tour, and I've known Rachel Bolan and Snake for forever. They were one of the people that brought us into this Nashville community here of like rock and metal, and so we're at Nick Raskulin's birthday party, our producer's birthday party, and Rachel says to me, he's like, "Hey, would you ever consider singing with us?" And I'm like, "What? Just like up at the whatever the bar down the street is?" He's like, "No, like up with Skid Row, like standing in for some shows." I'm like, "Oh, dude, yeah, absolutely, dude, anytime." And then a couple months later, he calls me up. He's like, "Hey, were you serious? Because we have some dates that are coming up that we need you." And so I'm like, "Dude, let me get in my calendar." So I got with my people and like we're moving everything around. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm set." He's like, "Okay, cool. Well, there's some stuff going on with Eric, and we're going to announce it." I'm like, "Okay, awesome." And didn't even think about the bigger picture. And then we announced it. And the floodgates just opened. I'm hearing from people I haven't heard from in 15 years that introduced me to Skid Row, and my family members and my bandmates' family members, and then also like my nieces and nephews that are like, "Oh, we get to like bring everybody out. This is an event. It's something that's bringing everyone together." And then for me, it's like this full circle. Because Skid Row, you have to understand, like I'm a weird in-betweener. Like when I was like 11 through 13, I was into 80s metal and like Cinderella and Skid Row and all that. And then, but I was also getting into new metal in the early 2000s, which was, Disturbed and Seven Dust and Tool. And the crazy thing about Skid Row is that they were the ones that carried me through over that bridge, because they had the big choruses and everything, but then they had those later albums that were just very present with the times and the weird seedy underbelly that was the 90s that we were all just kind of feeling. So they bridged that gap for me. So if like my teenage self could be like, "What? I was literally watching their music videos like yesterday, and now it's like come to full fruition." I keep joking with the boys. I'm like, "Hey guys, thanks for finally opening up my VHS audition tape from like '96." Like glad it made it in the mail finally. I passed the audition. But it's going to be so great. And I'm on like the stationary bike, like listening to like the set list and trying to like make sure I can hit the high notes and all that. I'm just like, I'm getting ready. This is like my Olympic sport. Let's go.
That's great. I love that you, that you're feeling that love too, and just seeing how big this is. Cause I think this might be one of the first times, or at least one of the few times in the history of modern rock where I don't think I saw a single negative comment about this.
Right? I know.
It's the news really broke. Crazy. Everybody just got so excited, and everything with Eric it seemed very amicable, and you wished him well, and so there was no real negativity there, and then just everybody so excited to see you step in.
Well, it's great. It's crazy because it's kind of a passing of the torch around the circle. It's like everyone's looking out for each other, and being there for each other. It's like as much as with Eric and everything going on with him and his life, the boys in the band are so gracious to be like, let's let's make sure we let this go in the right way because we care about you. And then, in my turn, I'm like, hey man, you need some dates. Well, I care about you guys. So let me lend my voice and what I can to this. And then like with all of the feedback, you're incredibly right, because I haven't heard one negative comment, and it's just giving everybody a reason to smile. And that's what it's all about, man. And so I don't know, just like we've been talking about, like, man, this is like bigger than us doing some gigs. Like, this is like amazing, and what a beautiful thing to be a part of,
I love it. You were on the show with us last year. We were talking about your collaboration with Ashley McBryde, and you told us that when you were 13, you kind of set your mission statement, and that was to always say yes to adventure. And clearly, we see that happen with other collaborations with what you do with this announcement with Skid Row. But hearing you say that kind of that 11 to 13, when you're 11 to 13, you're kind of into that 80s hair metal, and then beyond that started getting into the new metal. Did Skid Row help shape that mission statement for you?
Oh, absolutely. Because I still wear those things on my sleeve to the point that it's becoming a little annoying in demos, because, we're writing a record right now, and I am just going full on. Like it's been kind of like peeling back the onion to like, well, what started all of this? And so all of this weird serendipitous stuff is starting to kind of come into my life. And so at the same time that like this Skid Row thing is happening, and I'm writing these songs that are very much me wearing those influences on my sleeve, it's almost like feeling like you're in the right place at the right time doing something. And you may never know what that something is, but you feel kind of connected to everybody in a weird way. And not to be all like woo woo about this stuff, because I've never been that kind of girl, but I'm also like, there could be something else going on in the universe. Horoscope says everything, whatever. But I got a lot of witchy friends. They all tell me when like the moon is full for me and all that stuff. But yeah, it's really cool. And I definitely still wear all that on my sleeve. And it's great to go back after for so long, not like, I'm sure you go through the same thing where it's like the things that you grew up listening to, you take a break from for a while, and you're off searching new things and discovering new music and, and chasing after whatever's happening right now. And then when you finally come back to it with these brand new ears, and you're listening to it still with the joy that you had as a kid, but now with your adult brain being like, wait a minute, I know how to put that puzzle together. That's awesome. Let me try that. And then being able to execute that, it just makes your heart warm and fuzzy, So
and
it's going to be nothing.
There's nothing woo woo about that either. I think it is. I think it's good to, whatever that is, take a step back and just kind of reflect or look at that. And, we had a friend of yours, a good friend of yours, I know, collaborator, Scott Stevens, on the show recently.
Oh, yeah,
talking about New Xy's music and everything he's done. And you kind of hear that same thing, like being in the right place at the right time or whatever that is. And clearly it's much deeper than that, right? It's building relationships and it's getting to know people, but just seeing those connections produce other connections and more connections, and then that world just getting bigger and bigger. And you see the same thing with you, Lzzy, with working with different people and writing different songs and singing in places that people would have never maybe initially thought you would sing, with a band like Avatar or with a band like Gwar. And here you are not only holding your own, but fitting perfectly into that. So I don't know. I appreciate that, you don't want to get too weird about it, but I love reflecting on all that.
You want to hear a weird full circle story with Scott and the Xy's? So, I've written so much with Scott. He's produced some of my records. We've written some beautiful songs together. Every time I'm in his studio, he has this newspaper framed on his wall next to the vocal booth. And it's the Tennessean paper that his mom got from when him and the Xy's played somewhere around here in Nashville. And in the front row is this girl named Lindsay, and she's yelling at the top of her lungs with her horns up like this, and it says, "I love Scott" in Sharpie, right? So it's the front page, like, of the, art section in the Tennessean. Been there for years, since our first song we ever wrote together, which was "I Miss the Misery." Since the first song, I've been looking at this piece of paper, right? So fast forward to then we're writing Back from the Dead, last album cycle. I go in with Scott again. He's co-producing our record with Nick Raskulinecz. I go in with Scott. We're writing Back from the Dead. I'm coming back to Nashville. I'm meeting with one of my best friends in Nashville. He's got this new girl that they are now engaged and have a kid, all this stuff. And so fast forward, they made it. But so she's like, so Lzzy is a fan of ours. And she's like, oh, so why are you going out to LA? And I'm like, oh, I'm meeting with my buddy, Scott Stevens. We're writing some songs for this new album that we're trying to get done in between, putting masks on and masks off. And she's like, oh, you mean from the X's? And I'm like, yeah. Do you remember the X's? She's like, yeah, I was front row. I'm actually in the paper on the Tennessean when they came to see,
That's
like
awesome.
the last time they came to. I'm like, oh my God, you're Lzzy from the paper. And she's like, yeah. And so then I go back and now we're all like talk to each other, but it's like this weird full circle of like the journey of the X's and me seeing their videos on the, on MTV back when they still played music. And then, and then writing with Scott and then meeting one of our mutual fans that now is like the girl that I've been looking at for inspiration on his wall since 2012. So it was just like, yeah, it's just crazy. So
that's awesome. And I love that still happens, right? Like you have accomplished so much, Lzzy, and Halestorm's accomplished so much, and you have, so many milestones and accolades that you should be so proud of. And yet here we are in 2024 and you still get to, talk about and celebrate those kind of moments.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's so exciting.
That's the good stuff.
So you mentioned you're in the studio writing some stuff with Halestorm. So what's on the table for this band, man?
Man, we're writing a record and then we're going out with I Prevail and company and doing tours and playing new songs. And there's a lot of like, again, in the spirit of saying yes to adventure, there's a lot of things that are coming up on the calendar that are very much like that. And we've been asked to do some and collaborate with some amazing people. So there's that. I don't know. The future looks really like, I don't know what is going to happen, with all of us and everything, the state of the world, but I feel like I'm open to all the possibilities. And so I think that we're all in a really good spot right now to just kind of, do our thing until our hearts can't take it anymore, which I think will be a very long time.
Awesome.
We're also this year celebrating, it's like 21 years, same 4 members of the band. And it's also going to be 27 years history of Halestorm coming in August. So yeah, it's good times. Things to celebrate.
What's the timeline on the new record? Do you have kind of
we're hoping to get, it's so funny. I love putting out dates because they never work out. But I'm going to do it anyway. As is tradition, let's make promises we can't keep. But we're hoping to have the album done and dusted by the end of April because we've already kind of begun, doing all of those things. So now it's just kind of executing whatever the finishing touches and everything, trying to beat out some things. So we're going to try to get that done and try to put out some stuff as soon as possible. That being said, we could look at the entire body of work and be like, nope, let's start all over again. That's how that goes sometimes. So I'm putting that out there as well. But either way, you'll be seeing a lot of us this summer and
awesome.
Doing a lot of touring and a lot of adventuring. So
and what a killer lineup too for you and I Prevail to co-headline together.
Oh yeah, dude, there's so much big love and big respect for these guys, and we're doing a lot of collaborating together. And so it's just going to be, again, like I said, just like so much more than just, hey, we're going to go out on tour together and you play your set and we play ours. It's going to be a lot of that kind of communal, just a place for all of us to hang out. And we're so like, we're both stalkers of our own fans and like this, especially the super fans that talk about both of us, So we've all been like lobbing stories by, we're like, oh dude, I can't wait for these guys to meet your guys, So it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun.
I imagine, do you guys have like a big bulletin board and yarn attached to all these super fans?
Oh yeah. You should see my basement.
So you use the word collaborating. Does that mean you guys are working on music together or figuring out ways to share the stage together or both?
We've been doing a little bit of both. So we're kind of doing the finishing touches of that as well. And it's unlike anything that I've really ever done before because it just feels like we're all kind of I don't know, it feels like very like old, but very like brand new thought as well, as in like, I don't know whether you've ever seen like there's a DVD from back in the in the 90s when I watched it, called Festival Express, where it's like Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin and the band, and they're all like on the same train together and like just doing stuff. And then so it feels a lot like that. And so I'm hoping that's going to just kind of like, radiate off of us into the fans and into the vibes here. So
awesome. Yeah. Lzzy Hale, thank you so much for hanging. So excited to see everything to come with Halestorm. We've got all your tour dates on loudwire.com right now. We also got all the information about you fronting Skid Row for a few shows on the website too. And man, I just got to put this out there. Last year Metallica had to postpone one of their weekend shows because James got sick.
Yeah.
So if they needed someone to step in and sing for them...
I'll put your songs on my playlist, but let's go.
You're kind of familiar with Metallica too, right? Just a little bit.
Oh yeah, just a tad.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think they have great potential, as a band. Yeah,
We'll see. Lzzy, thank you so much for hanging. We'll have to have you back on the show soon.
Wait, thank you for hanging with me, darling. We'll see you soon. All right.
That wraps up this episode of Loudwire Nights on Demand. Stay caught up with everything happening in the world of rock and metal on the Loudwire app and at loudwire.com.